What if I told you it takes less than 20 minutes to set up an agent that's going to be able to track all your finances, either personal or in your business? In this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can build your own agent and guide you step by step and even provide you the prompt into a finance tracking agent. So this is how we're going to build this thing. So first, we're going to be sending a message to the agent via Telegram. This message is going to be a transaction. We can send multiple transactions at a time. So let's say if you spend a weekend out in a trip and you paid for gas, you paid for dinner, even groceries maybe, then you can send all of those together and you can tell them in a natural way, or you can even send a voice message to them. And the agent's going to do is it's going to classify those into different categories and put them in a spreadsheet. So that's why we can have two different input formats. We can get the audio file, which is going to be an audio message that's being sent through Telegram, or we can get a single text. So if it's an audio file, we're going to transcribe it and then we're going to pass it to the agent as if it was text. So the agent's going to then determine the actions, and we're going to have the three following actions. We're going to be able to log the expenses into a Google Sheets. We're going to be able to get the previous transactions that we've logged, and we're going to be able to get a summary. The summary is just going to be how much we spent on a specific category on that specific month. And then we're just going to get that message back from the agent. So first thing we want to do is we want to have ChatGPT create us a template that we can store our transactions in. I'm going to ask it to have two different tabs. One's going to be all my transaction logs, and the other one's going to be a summary, in which I'm going to see a small table with all the different sum up values of the different categories of transactions that are processed in that specific month. So I'm just going to tell it, can you please create a spreadsheet that I can import into Google Sheets that's going to have two separate tabs. One's going to be transactions, in which I'm going to be logging different transactions for the following categories, which are going to be groceries, eating out, gas, and miscellaneous. It should have the different columns for date, notes, amount, and merchant. And then for the summary tab, I'm going to have a small table that's going to have a summary of how much I've spent in that specific month per category. So based on the category matching name on the transaction tab, it's going to pull that values in there and sum them up in my table. So when you hit send, it's going to create that spreadsheet for you. So we're going to wait for that. Got it. So download it. Then what I want to do is I want to go to Sheets. We're going to import it. So go into here, import, upload. Search that file over here, drop it in, import data, and looks like it got the right categories. Now what we're going to do is want to check the summary. Looks like we do have some formulas here. We might need to play with them around once we are setting up the whole automation stuff to make sure that we're getting the right details into the summary. But for now, this is all we need as a starting point. And so now that we've done our spreadsheet, we want to go ahead and set up our Telegram trigger, which is where we're going to be receiving the message. So if I go into actions or triggers, there's one that says on message. This means on message received. And I'm going to show you how you can create your credentials for Telegram. So I'm going to start from scratch and create a new credential. And as you see, it's going to ask me for an access token. This is not as similar to other platforms in which you create your own API key. How Telegram works is you have to create a bot inside Telegram, and the bot basically has its own access token or API token. It's going to be useful to receive message and send message through that bot or through that chat. If you head over to this website, telegram.me/botfather, you're going to see that there's a option to start a bot. And basically what this is going to do is going to start that bot instance and give you its own API key. So if I hit start bot, since I already have Telegram styled, it's just going to redirect me through the app. And this is what we have. So what you want to do is you want to hit start, and you're going to create a new bot. So you can just press on that or just type /new bot, and then it's going to ask you for a name. So in this case, we can do something like budget agent 123. So because you need to have bot in it. So budget agent bot. See if that works. Okay, there we go. You see we get an access token. So we just want to copy that number. And if we head back to n8n, we can paste it where it says access token. Base URL stays the same. We hit save. As you can see, a connection was tested successfully. So I'm going to change the name this to budget agent tutorial. And so if I go back to Telegram, I can see that there's a link that's going to take me directly to that bot, and it's that chat. So as you can see here, if I hit start, it has the name that I gave it, budget agent bot. And I can test this trigger by hitting save, executing the workflow. And I can say hi. This should trigger the node. So if we go into what we receive here, we receive multiple things. We receive a name, a chat ID, a date, and a text hi. What we're going to be processing is going to be the text, because that's going to be the messages that we'll be sending to our agent. So once we've set this up, we want to go ahead and, if we look back in our diagram, we want to go ahead and create the logic for our processing for our messages. So we're going to have either audio or text. So in that case, we want to go and set an if statement, which is going to allow us to go in different routes. Back into the payload, there's nothing that really tells us that if it's a text or if it's a voice message. I mean, it has the content here, but it doesn't really tell me a type of message that was sent. So why don't we go ahead and send a voice message to the bot really quick and see how that would look in our payload. So I'm just going to go here to Telegram. Hello, how are you? So if I send that and we look at the payload, you're going to see that now we have a file ID. We have a MIME type. So what we want to do is we want to set the logic so that if we have one of these values that don't come whenever you send a text message, then we're going to go ahead and transcribe it. So let me just connect a node here real quick. And let me go to if MIME type is equal to, and we can do audio/OGG. That's just what's here. Then it's going to be true. Let me just pin this data real quick and make sure that it's working. You can see it's true. So now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and process that that file or that audio. So to do that, we're going to search up a Telegram node, get a file, because it comes in as a file, and we're going to map the file ID. So the file ID appears in the payload. We can either map it from the if statement, or we can map it directly from the trigger. I'm just going to do it from the if statement, and it's going to download it. So if I execute the step, you can see that it comes back as a file, and if I hit view, it's just the audio. So now the easiest way that we can transcribe this file is using a OpenAI node. So if I search up OpenAI, they have a transcriber recording. That's what we're going to use. And if you don't know how to set up your credential, it's very simple. You're just going to need an API key. And how you get your API key is that you go into Playground from OpenAI. You're going to log in into your account. You will always want to make sure that you have some credits in. So if I go here to settings, I go into billing, I want to make sure I have some money in there, otherwise it won't work. And then I want to go into API keys. I want to create a new secret key. You're going to give it a name. It's going to give you an API key, and then you're just going to go back and you're going to paste it right in there. So in order to transcribe it, we're going to set a name of the input data. You know, the name, in order for this to work, the name of the input has to match the name of whatever's the output from getting a file. So in this case, it's just data by default, and it's already matching by default. So if I hit execute step, it should be transcribing that file, and I should be seeing the hello, how are you that I just sent through Telegram. Great. So now if you notice, there's going to be two routes. There's going to be the one for transcribing and one for text. We want to make sure we're able to get either value whenever either type of message is sent. So for that, we're going to use a merge node, and we're just going to append it. And what that means is we're just going to continue with the object, whichever object gets created. So if I hit run, you see it just gets pushed as a text. But if I actually send a text message instead of a voice message, go to Telegram, I say hello, it's going to get triggered, it's going to pass through. It's also going to get passed as text. So that's really good, because now we can reference the same variable in the next nodes and without having to worry about the name. So now comes the fun part. We're going to be creating the AI agent. And then you want to change this into define below, because we're going to be using our own prompt. We're going to have a system message. What I like to do is I like to have the system message as my main prompt or my main instructions. And I want to use the prompt to pass the input, or in this case, it's going to be the message that I'm going to be sending through Telegram. in order for it to process it. And so now we want to add a chat model. I like using OpenAI's GPT 4.1 mini. I think it performs pretty good for these kinds of tasks. We also want to have a memory. The simple memory is going to be useful for the agent to keep track of the conversation and remember any messages that we've already sent in the past. So we want to maybe give it a context window of 20 messages. That way it knows the previous 20 messages that we've exchanged. We want to go ahead and the session ID, we're just going to define it below. And if you notice in the trigger, we have a chat ID. We're just going to be using that. And this is just so that whenever we send a message, it knows that it's the same person sending the message and it knows where in the memory look for previous chats. So once we have that, we're going to have different tools. So if we go back into our diagram, we see that we're going to have 3 different actions. We're going to log in the expenses into Google Sheets, get the previous transactions, and get a summary of our transactions. So that's going to be, we're going to be using Sheets for that. So for the first one, since it's log expenses into Google Sheets, we're going to use an operation that's going to be append a row, which is just create a new row. And we're going to go and choose the right spreadsheet. So I'm just going to call this budget tracking agent demo. And I'm going to go back here. I'm going to look for that budget tracking agent demo. And we're going to use the sheet transactions. Is that where we're going to be? We're going to set this to log transaction. That's what we're going to call the tool. And we're going to worry about setting it up later on. Then we're going to have a get summary one, which is basically going to look on that summary sheet and tell us what our transactions have been for the different categories. So we're just going to call it get transactions. I'll change my credential here real quick. I'm going to be using the same one, but in this case, we're going to set it to summary. We're not going to be using filter for now. And we have one more tool, which is going to be getting the summary. So I actually meant to say we're going to be getting the transactions here. So not the summary, set that back to transactions. And then we can pretty much just duplicate this, delete this, and just change it back to summary, change the name to get summary. Great, so now we have the base for our agent, and now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the prompt. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys the prompt that I'm using. So I'll be posting this prompt down in the description so that you can tweak it to your own needs. It seems a little long, but it works pretty well. And the reason for this is because I'm dividing it into different sections. If you don't know about prompting too much, it's very crucial that you learn what Markdown is, and because this is how LLMs usually identify different sections of prompts and specific tasks. So I'm just going to skim through it really quick. So we have an identity. I kind of tell him that he's going to be a budget assistant for me. Give him some general rules about conversation, that we're going to be talking about numbers and things like that. Then this is something very important. I want to tell him right away what are the different tools that he's going to be using. So I have its own section. As you notice, each section I'm dividing it using 3 dashes. That's usually what a line means in Markdown. And so first tool is going to be log expense. I give him some I always like giving it what a purpose is, and also what the agent should be returning to the user after running the tool. So in this case, I'm telling it you're going to be getting a transaction on that can be in any of the following categories. You're going to be responsible for setting those categories and giving it like a short description if one's not provided. Then we also have the date format should be in the following. Next, we have getting the summary. So the purpose is just to get the summary of my budget for the current month. Pretty straightforward. Response is just going to be a quick summary for each category and always provide the total left. Then we have the get summary tool, which is pretty straightforward. We're going to be providing a summary to the user. Then get transactions is going to tell me the last transactions that I have logged in the transaction sheet. So once I provide the tools, I always like to give a conversation flow, kind of like providing a simulation on how the conversation should go and with the different if cases. You can read that on your own. Then we have a little bit of how to handle multiple entries in case the user sends a message with like 5 different transactions or like 3. It's going to follow these guidelines in order to succeed in that task. And then we got a category reference, kind of like giving a little bit more of description on what each category means. So, and if you notice here, I have these variables called now. And basically I'm doing this so that it knows what date to put the transaction in case no date is provided. This also really helps so that the agent knows what date it is. A lot of these agents are training on old data, which they might think that it's 2024 still. So it's always good to have somewhere in your prompt where you specify what the time is. So that is for the system prompt. So now our user message or the user prompt is just going to be simply the last user message. And for that, we're going to be doing either json.text or json.message.text. That is because if we're receiving a message through regular text, it's just going to be wrapped inside a object called message. And if it's a transcription, it's just going to be json.text. So that way we're able to use either or. And now the only thing you have to do here in the tools is going to be in the log transaction tool. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and make this variables dynamic so that the date, notes, amount, merchant, and category are filled by AI. You simply do that by pressing on this button right here. As you can see, it says define automatically by the model. So we want to do that for all of them. And then for the other two, these are just pulling data, so we don't really have to do much there. And now we're ready to send our response back. So in order to send a response back, what we want to do is we want to add a Telegram node to send a message. It's going to be in, where is it? Send a text message. And so I'm going to run this one time just so that we have data to play around with. Oh, it looks like we already had some data, so that's good. So it says, could you please provide the vendor name and amount for your expense you want to log today? So in that case, we can reference to our webhook or our trigger node, which is going to be the receive a message node. And we're going to map in the same chat ID so that we send the response back to the same user. So we're going to just map that in here. And the text is just going to be whatever the AI agent says. And so we can go ahead and test it now. I'm going to actually just activate this and open up Telegram. So, hello. Okay, so it's asking for those details. As you can see, it says this message was sent automatically by n8n. n8n likes to be sneaky and adding this attribution in all of their sending messages native nodes such as Gmail or Telegram, I think WhatsApp as well. So what you want to do always before you launch anything in production, you want to go ahead and go into additional fields, append n8n attribution, and turn that off. That's going to get rid of that annoying message. So now I'm going to tell it to log a $5 expense that I did at the gas station. Let's say, can you please log $5 expense that I did at the gas station for some snacks for my road trip today? So that should be logging it directly into the Google Sheets. So we're going to wait for that. Looks like it's running. And so if I go back to the Google Sheets and let me widen this a little bit more just so that we can see. You can see that it got filled up with today's date, which is November 1st. We got the snacks for a road trip, the amount, and the gas station. So what I want to do here is just set this to dollars so that it's not confusing. And if I go into summary, it looks like the formula that ChatGPT put in here is actually referencing anything that has the name miscellaneous. So why don't we go ahead and try it again. Can you please log that I spent $25 in the gas station during the road trip today, and that yesterday I spent $20 eating out at Subway? I'm just gonna send that. We'll see if we get the dates right. Should be getting today's date and October 31st, which was yesterday, into separate rows. So looks like it's running. So you can see they just populated it out to 20 and gas to 25. So let me go to transactions now. It looks like it didn't add any notes for Subway, as I just said it was for, I was just having dinner or something. So you can see $25 for gas, notes road trip, category gas, and then Subway $20, and you got the dates right. So it's pretty cool. So there you have it. And as you can see, it's not that complex to build a system like this, and you can really take this to the next level. I personally use it to track my personal expenses. I have about 10 different categories, and I have a spreadsheet that's a little bit more sophisticated than this one, in which I have like my budget set so that it tells me how much I have left on that specific category per month. So you can get really creative with this. And I found a lot of value in this because I'm not usually opening the spreadsheet every time I'm doing an expense. Like if I go out and eat at a restaurant, I'm not opening my spreadsheet and putting it manually myself. Usually what I like to do is at the end of the week, I kind of go over my bank account and read through it to the agent, and the agent makes sure to put it in the spreadsheet, give me a summary back saying, hey, this is how much you got left. I think it's very useful for personal cases, but also for company. If you're doing a lot of transactions in your company or business charges, then you might want to implement something like this to keep track of your finances. So if you find this video helpful, please make sure to like this video and consider subscribing to my channel. I'm going to be posting similar builds like this and breakdowns. If there's a specific build that you would like to see me work on, definitely leave it down in the comments, and see you guys next time.